We like to visit our son and his family in South Lake Tahoe in the wintertime, but we always leave the camper van at home and take the Subaru. Today I thought I'd share some of our tips for traveling on US 395 in the wintertime and some of the fun things we did. Oh, John! Oh my gosh! Oh, that was not good. We have three objectives when we drive US 395 to South Lake Tahoe in the wintertime. Now I know many of you are, you live locally, you've been up this highway many times, probably to go to Mammoth and ski. Some of you do a lot of camping in the summertime, so you're very familiar with this road, and maybe I have nothing to add to this conversation. However, maybe you have things you'd like to throw in and recommend to people who may be considering coming out and driving this highway, especially in the wintertime. But these are the kinds of, the things I'm going to share today are just things I've discovered over the 50 years of taking 395. And I've probably driven this road 200 times in that 50 years. So one of the things that we like the most about wintertime travel along 395 is it's absolutely gorgeous. It's gorgeous all year round, but especially when there's no traffic. All the passes are closed, and except during the holiday season when you have so many folks from LA, and Mammoth is really an LA playground. People from San Francisco do not come to Mammoth. It's almost exclusively an LA crowd. Now, South Lake Tahoe is just the opposite. You see very few people coming from the LA basin. Almost all of the traffic in South Lake Tahoe is from the San Francisco Bay Area. And so a lot of you may be quite familiar with the road up into Mammoth, and then maybe not so much into South Lake Tahoe. But US 395 is, as far as I'm concerned, the most beautiful highway in the country. And it's kind of my heaven on earth. So the wintertime, it kind of feels like you own it. But there are also things you need to know about because it is more sparsely driven, and the small towns along the way are not necessarily, a lot of the shops are not necessarily open. A lot of the motels close, and there are rest areas that close, and of course all of the campgrounds, the ones that are either run by the U.S. Forest Service or the Park Service, those are pretty much all closed after Labor Day. Some will go as late as late October, but pretty much they're all closed down by the time winter rolls around. And a lot of those roads are just not plowed. On this trip that we've just come back from, we were gone a week, and we encountered all kinds of weather. Absolutely gorgeous blue sky weather, rain, sleet, ice, and snow. And so you always need to be prepared. A lot of the Caltrans is really good at plowing, and a lot of the counties are really good at plowing. We do not use salt in California. The roads are typically covered with grit instead of salt, because salt would harm a lot of the water bodies and that sort of thing. So you need to be aware of that. The snow can get incredibly deep, so you always want to carry extra clothing, food, water, because there are long stretches. You can go for hours without really coming to any kind of a place where you can get gasoline or food. And so that's, you always carry pretty much everything you need for several days, because you could get buried out there. On this trip, we actually delayed our start for 3 days because a series of storms was coming through. And then we probably left a day before we had it planned, because another set of storms was coming back across again. In fact, it's raining right now down here in Southern California, and they are getting lots of snow, and it's going down to about 3,500 feet elevation. We woke up this morning with a couple inches of snow on our car in Lone Pine. As I've mentioned before, when we're going anywhere outside of the LA basin, we always leave super early. So in the wintertime, that means you're leaving before the sun comes up. In our case, we typically leave between 4 and 4:30 in the morning and keep our fingers crossed that there aren't any big traffic jams. We prefer to leave on a weekend, but because we delayed our start this time because of these storm systems that were coming through, we had to leave on, I think it was a Tuesday. And so you want to get out of the basin before the real crunch comes. If you don't, you'll be stuck in traffic 2 or 3 hours. And so we get a really early start. And that also means then we're not driving that final leg into the Tahoe Basin after dark. So, you know, you want to get a super early start out of LA. Now on the return trip, because we really don't like the opposite, we don't like to leave in the dark and be driving in the mountains for a couple of hours with no sunlight. So we will often book a room in Lone Pine, which is about 4 to 4.5 hours from our home, so that we're not coming back into LA during the rush hour traffic, which can just be horrendous, even worse, I think, than the morning traffic. So we usually book a room at the Frontier. It's a Best Western in just south of Lone Pine. And you can get pretty good rates in the wintertime if you're not trying to travel during the holiday season. We got a room for $80. And so it's nice to be able to stop there. They have a nice, you know, breakfast in the morning. The rooms are really nice. And then it also gives you that option which we took, which was to do more exploration in the morning. And it was wonderful to be able to do that because the snow and the snow level was down to 3,500 feet. It was just absolutely gorgeous. And so we made a stop at Fossil Falls. What an incredible day at Fossil Falls. I have never been out here when there was snow on the ground, and I've never been here when there was actually water flowing through the dry falls. This is an amazing place. $6 a night. Since you don't have your van with you with its little bathroom, you're going to then be having to find public restrooms. And we've discovered, I think I've tried them all out along US 395, and these are my favorites. But then the first stop we make is in Mojave at the McDonald's, clean restrooms, and I like their coffee, so we stop and get a coffee there. That's the first one. The second really good spot to stop is there is a rest stop just north of the Little Lakes area, and so that's a regular rest area. I don't really like that one. We almost never stop there. We keep going until we get to Lone Pine, and the Visitor Center in Lone Pine. If you haven't been there, if you're familiar with the area, you've got to go there. They have a great bookstore to pick up all kinds of great books about the area, maps, everything you would want, your permits if you're going to climb Mount Whitney or any of those heights along there. It's a great spot to stop, and the restrooms are spotless. If you this week, of course, there was government was on furlough, so that wasn't open. So we went to the McDonald's in Lone Pine, another cup of coffee. We got to fill ourselves up for the next rest stop. So we got a cup of coffee at the McDonald's in Lone Pine. So that's our second best option for restrooms. Then as you move north, there's another rest area in the Big Pine Volcanic Field, which is just north of Big Pine. And then north of that, of course, is Bishop, which is the largest community along US 395 until you get to Carson. And in Bishop, I think most people stop at Schatz. In the wintertime, it's nice because it's a lot quieter. And we usually pick up some bread, use the restroom, and maybe get a sandwich for later. So that's a really good option in Bishop. Now, when you're driving through any of these small towns, make sure you obey the speed limits. Even though California does have a speed trap law, you don't want to spend much more in trying to fight a speeding ticket in these towns. So if it says 25, go 25. The other place we stop when we visit Bishop, it's not a pit stop, but it's a store. It's called Wilson's East Side Sports, and they have the best. They're the best outfitters, in my opinion, in the entire Owens Valley, including Mammoth. Now, north of Bishop, as you're heading up toward Mammoth, really not really a lot of choices there. So we just keep going, and Mammoth's not very far away. We actually usually don't stop at Mammoth. But on the way back, we did stop because we wanted to see the famous Starbucks that has opened in Mammoth and the old McDonald's store that was there. It is the largest Starbucks in the nation. Could be the world, but it is the largest Starbucks in the nation, and I wanted to see it. So we made the couple-mile trek up, I think it's 203, to the town of Mammoth. This store is a corporate store that opened in September. It actually has a meeting room. They charge $75 an hour for the meeting room, but it includes coffee and pastries. And this has a very nice restroom facility. Okay, as you continue north of Mammoth, the next rest stop is actually closed in the wintertime. It's between Mammoth and Lee Vining, and it is closed in the winter. So you don't have an option there. You have to keep going till you get to Lee Vining. Now in the summertime, we would stop at the famous Mobil gas station. And if you're not familiar with the Mobil gas station, then you don't buy gas there. The gas prices are way too high there, but they have a very famous restaurant at the gas station. In the summertime, it is actually packed with people. It's sometimes hard to get in and hard to find a parking space. It's on the road as you go up to Tioga Pass. So once you're, so if that's not an option, then you really have to go into Lee Vining. And to tell you the truth, I don't have a recommendation for Lee Vining. The visitor center is also closed in the wintertime. So we usually just keep going until we get to Bridgeport. So Bridgeport has a really good option that I think a lot of people are not aware of. There is a county park. So when you get to the courthouse, you make a right and then you make a left at the library, and it's on the left-hand side. They have a little visitor center, a cute little museum, and a restroom. It's really tiny, but they have a heater in there, so it is heated. If they didn't, it would the pipes would freeze because Bridgeport is very cold. So the Bridgeport public restroom is a great spot to stop. Okay, the next stop is Topaz Lake. Some of you may remember Stream and Life just camped recently at Topaz Lake. But we've never stopped there for, I assume a lot of people stop there for gas because now you're in Nevada and the gas price in Nevada is a lot less. So a lot of people stop there, but I don't recommend you stop there. You need to go all the way until you get to the 7-Eleven in just south of, it's in Gardnerville. And once you get to the 7-Eleven, that is actually the cheapest gas station we've found in Gardnerville, Carson, that area, is that 7-Eleven. We take a back way into South Lake Tahoe, which we highly recommend. It's the one that goes up through Hope Valley. So at the 7-Eleven store, we make a left, and then we go in the back way. It takes you past into Hope Valley, past a place called Sorensen's, and Sorensen's is famous for its pie. So if you've got a hankering for pie, you better get there early because they run out pretty fast. And then, so those are my rest stop recommendations for you if you're traveling along that road. I hope that helps you. And if you guys are familiar with this route, have others that you found to be good options, then let me know. I'm going to put a map. I'm going to create a Google map. Hopefully, I have time. Create a Google map and mark these on the map so that you can download the map and have it with you if you're driving on 395. So our trip to South Lake Tahoe is not just about rest stops and pit stops and things like that. We did do some really fun things. Wintertime is a great time to explore the Sierras that are accessible. And this has been, so far this season, we haven't had a whole lot of snow. There was only maybe a couple feet at most on the ground. And when the sun comes out, the temperatures can be really nice, and it can be, you can probably be hiking in a t-shirt. So we decided to go for a day hike and up to Fallen Leaf, a short little hike to Fallen Leaf Lake. And here's the video of our little day hike. Don't they know it's cold? Oh my gosh. Thanks.
Pretty great, right?
Yeah. Wow, this thing is, so how old is this thing?
I think this is like 19.
The second thing that we did was fun, was sledding. My skiing days are long gone. I'm not going to take a chance and risk breaking something. So I don't ski any longer. I would go cross-country skiing if I had them, but I don't. And I could have borrowed snowshoes, but they really weren't necessary this trip. But we did go sledding, and we just had a blast. So I'll show you that clip right here. Oh no, this doesn't look good.
Woo!